from? Okay, can you go ahead and unmute and just answer that without, again, stuttering your way through another point? We'll get to your other points, I promise you. Let's just start with this point. Is that okay? Let's just go one point at a time. So where does it come from? A lot of people in the chat are already answering for you if you don't know.
I mean, I would assume it comes from the Bible. I mean, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory considering the terminology.
Amazing, like great, awesome. I mean, so it comes from the book of Revelation. Did you know this?
Energy to ask us a self-explanatory question. Like,
it's not self-explanatory, by the way.
A question that didn't need to be asked. I'm just being real.
No, it does need to be asked because you don't even know where it comes from. Okay. I'm also not your therapist, so I also don't need to hear you cry about this. It's very simple. You said it's self-explanatory, but you answered with, I assume it comes from the Bible. You don't even know where in the Bible. So just so you know, it comes from the book of Revelation. Okay, what chapter?
I don't know.
Okay, so you don't know. So shut the fuck up for a second so I can answer.
I said I know it comes from the Bible.
All right, thank you. All right, thank you. I'm just going to answer. Maybe if you want, you can come back up after. I don't know. I'm assuming you're not going to, but I really need to get this out. But you won't shut the fuck up for a second because there's a lot of people that make this claim, the synagogue of Satan, and they don't know what it means. And you just won't stop talking so I can inform people. So just so everyone knows, it comes from the book of Revelation. You know what? Let me go grab my Bible. My Christian Bible, and I will be right back. I'm going to show you guys.
Just asked me to bring it. Megan's been watching Fauda. Yep. Amazing.
What do you guys think in the chat? King James or New International? I don't particularly like King James, to be honest with you guys, but I don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. We'll say that King James does have the red lettering for Jesus, so maybe let's go with that. Work your way to the top. All right, I'm going to see a few of you saying King James. Go King James. So anyways, Book of Revelation, chapters 2 and 3, by the way, because it mentions it in chapter 2 and 3. And this is the people, I always say this, and for you new people that have just found me, you'll hear me say this a lot in the future. There's a certain amount of Christians, and I love Christians, I love Christianity, I think it's great. Here's the issue I have with some Christians out. There are, well, when I say Christians, I mean Christians, right? I'm not talking about Christians who actually pious, they go to church, maybe not all the time, or maybe all the time, but, you know, people who actually like, I want to know what the word says, they study their Bible. I'm talking about the people who they love the idea of being Christian more than being Christian. Like the, my New International Version has red letters. Man, I should get yours. That's great. Like the guy that just came up, right? He's like, well, like, you know, he mentions that he's right on cue. He goes, they're literally, he didn't even say they are, they're literally the synagogue of Satan, okay? And then he doesn't even know where that comes from, doesn't even know what it means, and there's a lot of people that don't. They're just anti-Semites, so they repeat what they heard is in Revelation 2:9 or Revelation 3:9. So here's Revelation 3:9. I'm going to read it. This is assuming you don't read anything. You just only read the verse by itself. No context, no nothing. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. And 2:9 says, I know thy works in tribulation and poverty, but thou art rich, and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. So if you read that by itself, especially in English, you just think, oh yeah, it's calling Jews the synagogue of Satan, right? No. So if you read right before it, literally the sentence before in chapter 2, it says, and unto the angels of the church in Smyrna, right? These things saith, the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. I know thy works in tribulation, ... So first thing is talking about the church of Smyrna. This is something before. This is the early churches. So how can it be talking about Jews today or tomorrow or whatever? It literally says it in the sentence before. And then the chapter 3, it says, letter to the church in Philadelphia, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth and shutteth, and no man openeth. Amen to my Christians in the chat. Anyways, it says it. But if you just skip that part and you only read one sentence, you think. Now, if that doesn't convince you, let's keep going. Everyone in the chat, I'm trying to get you guys more involved instead of just rambling. Can you guys tell me what the New Testament was written in?
Aramaic and Greek.
What language? Greek, that's true. A little bit more specific. No, not Latin. It's Greek. Definitely Greek. I'm joking.
Aramaic and Koine Greek.
What that means.
No, it's that. Koine Greek. There you go. Simi Madu for the win.
It's like the word you say, like fucking bitch.
You know what? I did know that actually.
On the wire.
That's right. A lot of you guys are saying it. Koine Greek. That's correct. If you guys look up the Koine Greek word for synagogue.
I grew up with a Greek best friend.
It is synagogue, right? But what it means is a gathering or assembly. That's the literal translation. The problem is you have a bunch of Christians who, again, a real Christian will know the context of the book of Revelations, chapter 2 and chapter 3. It'll know the context of the early churches. It'll know the story of what Jesus was talking about, the church of Smyrna, the church of Philadelphia, and the early churches. And the Jews, not all Jews, those specific Jews who were lying and saying stuff to get other Jews in trouble with the government. Okay? So, the reason we know it's not literally all Jews, well, we know it's not talking about today because it's literally talking about the early churches. Literally talking about the early churches. I just proved that. But the reason we know it's not even talking about all Jews is because the word it says, right, is it's talking about, I'm looking for it. The pronunciation synagogue, right? Translated as assembly. Where is it? Here we go. So it is saying in the original Koine Greek, it is using the word that's pronounced synagogue versus, I'm not good at Greek, so if somebody knew Greek, they could come up, and I'm assuming nobody does. Synagogue, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm kind of learning the Greek letters. Regardless, the point is it uses the first, not the latter. That is the nominative singular form. It is not using the plural form. What that means is it is literally in Greek, because in English, we don't really have those. And a lot of foreign languages, for example, foreign to us, I guess, they have a split between if you're talking to sometimes man versus woman, sometimes if the woman or man is saying it, plural versus singular, blah, blah, blah. So what it's talking about is a small group, or it can even be talking about a singular Jew. Now, because I know the story of the Church of Smyrna and the Church of Philadelphia, it's talking about, it's not literally one single Jew, but it's not the word that would be used if he was applying it to all Jews. So, synagogue of Satan, as somebody in the YouTube chat said, I was literally just about to say it perfect, it literally means assembly of accusers. The problem, if you read this in the original Greek, you would know this. You would know it's not talking about, but the problem is it is translated to English, and then you have a lot of bad faith actors who, again, they like the idea of being Christian more than actually being Christians, right? The Bible's not that long. Read it. Read it. It's good for your soul. It's really good for your soul. Read it. But anyways, the point I'm making is that you would know this if you're reading it in Greek, but they read it in English, and they use it, and they hear the word synagogue. Of course, what does everyone in the world think when they hear synagogue? They think, oh yeah, the Jewish church, if you will. I hear that all the time. That's the Jews' church, right? Temple, right? That's where the Jews go to, pray and whatnot, do service. They don't think of it meaning just assembly. It could apply to more than just Jews. On top of that, when they hear just Satan, again, it's going to mean adversary or accusers. In this case, it's talking about accusers because that's what that group was literally doing at the Church of Smyrna and at the Church of Philadelphia. Anyways, that's the answer. That's why I ended up kicking the guy because he would not let me get that out because I think it's important. There's a lot of people that say synagogue of Satan. It's all the time. Candace Owens, all the time. You know, this devout Catholic Candace Owens, which really, really is very devout. She's very devout. You guys know that? Anyways, someone in the chat said show your tattoos. I have a lot of tattoos under my shirts, but this one's part of this. It says Hebrew up the high. I have Mexican. I got this guy from Mexico City. I actually want to get this off because I actually drew this one myself. It's kind of like equal. Some people think it's a Star of Faith. It's not. It's the kind of equality, equal up, equal down kind of thing. It's kind of I don't know. Honestly, it's kind of like, I haven't gotten tattoos in a long time. The last one I got, I think, was this one, and it was. But I also have down my ribs, I have a tribal tattoo that has an anchor from my time in the Navy. Over here, I have the American flag around an eagle. It's over my heart. And this is the first tattoo I ever got. That was 18. American flag. I have this one right here, which is the American flag. This is for dishonor. I have Simba right here. Got this one with my brother. It says, "Remember who you are," correct? What else? I have the Reaper on my back, and I also have my last name, Matau, in tribal letters down my back. For those that don't know, Matau is Samoan. The dad that raised me is Samoan dad, so it was kind of a Samoan style tribal tattoo. I think that's all the tattoos I have.
I see a bunch of you saying shit. But you should get in my name, tattoo, but no. I don't think that's a good idea.
No, I wouldn't really get anything tattooed on me. But even then, I think I'm done with tattoos, you guys. Were you adopted?
Real quick, if you want this to be people are sick of me.
Okay.
Nick's mother was with a Mexican guy, had 3 kids with him. Then met a man, another Mexican man. Unfortunately, didn't do right by the man she was with, and had Nick. They'd never met that man. And after he was born, Nick's mother met Joe, his father, the Samoan man. So, he has a biological father who never met. The Samoan father raised him, and he sort of has another set of parents who have his parents. So he's been raised in Mexican culture mostly, obviously. His mom's Italian, and his dad is Samoan. So
you're missing a couple things, obviously.
There's a bunch of different things.
Alright, I'm gonna.
Sorry, that's right.
No, it's fine. Okay. It's not just. I mean, she said after I was born, but to be specific, he's raised me since I was 1. That's why I have the last name Matau. It's Samoan. He raised me since I was. I mean, before I could remember. So he's my dad. But yeah, my mom is. You know, that's where I get my Italian, Native American from, and then my biological dad, even though he was Mexican, he was ethnically Spanish, because I was just like, when I was born, I was like, my dad's Mexican, pretty light skinned, and I did a DNA test. I mean, I got some Mexican, but it was actually mostly Spanish, and so that made sense. It's like, oh, okay, he must have been Spanish. Yeah, I never met the guy. Which I don't really care. People have always asked, like, oh, would you be interested in meeting him? Not really. I don't hate him. I don't know him. I just whatever. It doesn't matter. I have an amazing dad. He literally raised me since.
And a bonus dad.
Yeah. And yeah, my brother and sister's dad.
Great guys. So.
Yep. And then when I talk about part of my family coming from Mexico and getting their citizenship, I'm talking about my brother and sister's dad, but their family's literally. I mean, it's literally just like my family. I was raised with them. A lot of them are from. 1 second, please. A lot of them were born and raised in Mexico, and then my generation, right, was the first generation here, and that's why I'm very much against illegal immigration, because I've seen all these, you know, a lot of people who, by the way, they're all patriots. They all served in the. anyways, they all served in the military. The men did. Most of them in the Marines and Navy. There's a couple, but mostly it was Marines and Navy. And they wave the American flag. They're proud patriots. They assimilated into this country. They speak English, and they can stand illegal immigrants. It's just it's just a bad look when all of them did it the right way. They got citizenship, right? They assimilated. That's a big one that people don't talk about. People just think as long as maybe you just get your citizenship. I mean, that's important too versus being illegal. But you should also assimilate. I'm not saying that doesn't mean you can't be proud of your culture, of course, but you have to assimilate into the country you're coming into. It's that's just, anyways, you get the point. Real quick before I forget, thank you for the super chats. The Sal, I'm Lebanese Christian. We should chat. Sure, no problem. You have to come up, but and thank you, Alex 11 Bravo. You should do a collab with Wes Huff. Yes, did you see him destroy Billy Carson? It's the same way you did to Sneeko. That's how I heard of him. I actually don't even know either of those guys are. True.
Someone in the TikTok comments said Nick's dad went out to get milk and everything.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think he went back to Mexico, actually. I don't even know if that's actually particularly true or not. Yeah, I don't really, I'm not ashamed of it. I know there's like some weird pro-Callies like in the chats and stuff. It's like, oh, your dad left. Like, yeah, okay, so.
Somebody said we need to hear Danielle's story. Really, really easy. 2 Israeli parents moved to New York separately, met in New York, was born and raised there, moved to Israel when I was 21, and left like 3 years ago with Nick.
So yeah, I don't particularly, like, I don't even understand why that would matter at all. Like, it's not even a big deal. I was literally raised by a dad. It's no difference from my point of view. From my point of view, from the time I can remember, I had a dad. It's like, I think it'd be different if he was biological. No, he raised me significantly better than that other dad obviously could have raised me and gave me the values that I have today. Thank you for the super chat. Made me smile. W Nick, appreciate it. All right, let's put up a couple more people. Let's see if we can get some conversation going.
Hello, Nick. Can you hear me?
We can, but let Sun go first because he was here first.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Sure, yeah.
Before I pop off on anything, I just kind of want to do a quick check, see where we're at, what we're talking about.
Right there, man.
Just Iran war, like go off, say some stuff?
Well, wait, what's your question?
Yeah, just say what's on your mind.
I mean, as long as it's within the topics, like don't, I'm not here to talk about pizza or something.
Definitely not about pizza. It seems like going into Iran, starting us down a path that is going to send boots on the ground. You know, he said he doesn't want to, but you unleash that monster into war with anyone. It's a matter of time before they send in Marines. It seems like a betrayal of what he ran on.
Wait, real quick, before you go down the rabbit hole, you're kind of setting a precedent that you didn't establish first. So you're kind of like doing that to like, can you first establish it first? And where are you getting that from? Why is that? We've done attacks in other places and didn't send boots on the ground. So why are you making this false claim that if you start it, then you have to do that? Where's that coming from?
Yeah, just the things that he's mentioned, right? So what I've heard last, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I'm hearing good things, right? I think if it was Rubio versus Trump, I would vote for Rubio. So
same.
You're going to do that. He says he doesn't want the current guy, the son of the Ayatollah. Right? Yeah. If that's going to be the case, we're actually going to do regime change. It's not going to be like we go in, we kidnap the old guy, next person who's in line like we did in Argentina steps up. We're actually going to go in there, like he's saying, they're going to need boots on the ground. So that's like the quiet part not said out loud. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. Well, first off, I still don't understand how that could, why that specifically, how do I say this? I don't see why that specifically is the boots on the ground. Also, I think you meant to say Venezuela, but I got you.
I did, excuse me.
No, it's good. I just want to make sure. But Mojtaba, well, real quick, okay, well, then never mind. I was going to say Mojtaba Khomeini has already been injured. It hasn't been confirmed if he's dead or not. I don't think he is, but it's already, like, I don't think you need to send boots on the ground to take him out. Also, I want to make it clear some sources are like 5 goals of war that America has established, and it's pretty much held to since the beginning. none of those say regime change. Of course, they desire regime change, but they have never said anything about like we can accomplish these 5 goals, but if there's not a regime change, we're going to stay in and we're going to do whatever we can. Like, it's not particularly, and the administration made clear that it's not particularly our job, but of course that would be very ideal. But anyways, you said you're going to take that away. So where are you kind of like wanting to go with this conversation?
Sure. So I'll even say, like, we're not going to do boots on the ground. We're just doing military operations. Trump ran on no more wars, right? We're not going to be in Afghanistan.
It's not true, actually.
We're not going to be in Iraq. Okay. Because that was what I heard from Trump, and that was like the one thing I could give him is like he doesn't want to go to war with Russia. He doesn't want to go to war with Iraq. He doesn't want to go to war with Iran. If you're saying he ran on something different, I need to reevaluate.
Look, I'm not going to harp on you specifically because there's even a lot of big Trump supporters that do not, that say the same thing. He ran on no wars. It's like, dude, no. I've been to Trump's rallies, like in person. I was at his rally the day before he got elected the first time. I've been to the newer rallies when he was campaigning this last time. I've watched a lot of his stuff. Again, and I'm not like some big Trump fan per se. I'm definitely conservative, I'm right-wing. But Trump is, like, I don't get me wrong. I think a lot of his policies are great, and I think he's pretty effective. But there's just some things that I just don't like about him, personality-wise. I don't like protectionism. He's very big on that. But it is what it is. It's fine. I'm never going to get somebody that agrees with me 100%. Anyways, to answer your question.
Wait, just real quick. So we can find common ground. We both agree, like, the cost of the tariff is passed on to the consumer. That's for the most part, yes. I think that it's a little bit simplifying on how protectionism works, but yes, that's a common ground we can agree with. It's hardly ever a good thing. It's hardly ever a good thing. Yeah, I'm not for protectionism, but again, I still want it to succeed though. Like when Trump did it, and this is how I am. Whether it's Biden, Trump, I don't care who. I'm not the kind of guy that's like, yeah, exactly. Live in the same country. So when he did it, I will admit it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, but still, I don't think it's great. But I hope it works out for him. Whatever he's trying to accomplish with it, I hope it works because, like you said, we're in the same country. Real quick to the super chats. Thank you. Have you ever heard of Rabbi Kahane? Of course I have. We'll talk about that after though. So yeah, he didn't say that. He said no new wars, and I can argue that this is not particularly the case. But also, it's very important to hold on. Very important to understand context beyond just clips and single sentences. He has said consistently from the first time that I know of, it could have been before, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time, 1980, he talked about military action against Iran. 2011 and on, he has mentioned it pretty much every single year. And he has gone as far as to say we should obliterate and bomb the shit out of them. He has said while we're doing what we're doing in Syria, we should go and bomb Iran because of they can never have a nuclear missile. This is times before he was in office. This was times in between his 2 terms. This was when he was in office. This is now. He has been saying this for decades. On top of that, he has also made it very clear when expanded on, when they literally asked him, what do you mean? Like sometimes you say obliterate them, sometimes you harp on Obama, you're like, oh, he's gonna go start shit with Iran to get reelected and it's a coward move. I don't know if that's exactly what he said, but he said something like that. And so people have asked him, like, can you expand what you mean? And he has said very clearly that I believe if I was in office, now of course he's Trump, so everything's big and he's the best at the job and no one can do it like him. So he's like, I'll get it done. Yep. I'll get it done. I'm the best negotiator. Obama's weak, right? He said that, but he made it very clear. If you exhaust all negotiation, then the military option should always be on the table. I'm like quite literally quoting him. Wait, I feel like that's a great jumping off point because I think this is the big thing. Is they're in negotiations with Iran. They are not close to nuclear. Like they're not even close to like nuclear plant enrichment. Which
stop real quick. You're talking to a literal nuclear engineer. You are so wrong.
Are you
I was in the Navy for 12 years.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll sit down and listen. Thank you for your service.
I appreciate it. Yeah, dude. First off, enrichment to nuclear reactor levels at a low level is about 3 to 5%. Okay. If you want a
What?
Yes, 3 to 5% at a low level reactor. If you want
We're not talking weapons grade here because weapons grade is like 45,
hold on.
50.
Wait, I'll get there. No, first off, weapons grade is 90. You're again wrong.
Okay.
You can make dirty nukes maybe at 45, 50, but you can't really make a nuke. Right, but hold on, wait. You said, and I quote, maybe you forgot, maybe you misspoke, you said they're not at enrichment levels, and then you said they're not even at reactor levels. That's what you said, right?
Yeah, so what I meant was...
Well, I can't answer what you meant. Hold on, I can't. You can, but I want to make it clear before you say I'm wrong. I can't answer what you mean because I'm not a mind reader. I can only answer what you say. So if you want to say I misspoke, then go ahead.
Yeah, so I did misspeak. It's been a while since I've looked into the literature on this. I'm a policy guy, but their enrichment levels were not enough that they could be making nuclear power at the level that American plants are making nuclear power. So and when I say enrichment, I mean weapons enrichment.
What do you think a high power reactor, again, are you talking about reactor again, or are you talking about weapons?
I'm saying that they're, because, so what was it? We hit them with Stuxnet.
Okay, real quick, before you go down a different rabbit hole, can you just answer this question first? Are you talking about reactor levels? Because you once again said they're not near even the United States' reactor levels. Are you talking about reactor, or are you talking, go ahead. I'm
saying that even their power capacity was not on the same.
I'm gonna ask one more time because you're not really answering. Are you talking about reactors right now, or are you talking about a nuclear bomb, a good nuclear bomb, not like a dirty one?
I was talking about both. I was saying that not even. Let me finish.
Well, I was trying to finish, and since I know you are talking about reactors now, I kind of want to go back to what I was saying. And then we can get into weapons.
What I'm making about reactors is even their reactors are below the level that Americans are using.
Okay, so that's not true. That's why I want to cut in, because you're wrong. Oh my gosh, you're just saying so much wrong stuff right now. It's like insane how you do not want me. Unless you're about to say everything I said before was a joke, then no matter what you say after, it's still going to be equally wrong. No, I know you're not. I know you're not. That was a joke. What I'm saying is unless you're about to say, I didn't mean what I said, the prior sentences, no matter what you say from here on out, you are still equally wrong about what you said.
So what I'm getting at here is that the diplomatic solutions were not exhausted. I do not believe that there was a gun to America's head, the greatest military in the world, and that Iran presented an imminent threat. And that you could not.
Okay, you're changing the subject a little bit. I'd love to talk about it, but
this is what I was trying to express.
No, but you still said so much. No, okay, I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive now. I'm trying to be cordial, but you are really going off for like 10 straight minutes. You've said so much wrong stuff. Okay, fine, you can cut out, but I got you. I got it. If you want, you're an adult. You can do what you want. You're more than welcome to cut out. But you said so much wrong stuff. And this is also an audience where 631 people are watching here, and on TikTok, 460 people. So over 1,000 people are watching right now. And instead of letting me explain to 99% of people probably don't know shit about nuclear power. And instead of letting me do that, you will not let me speak. I'm trying to be cordial with you because you seem nice, but you now are like trying to move the goalposts, or not really move the goalposts, but you're trying to bring up a second point about all this other stuff.
1.5. Right now, all
right. Okay, 1.5 thousand. So I'm going to.
Responsibility.
Okay, right. So I'm going to explain this. If you want to leave, that's up to you, dude. So I'm going to explain now. So everyone, do not listen to anything he said. He was wrong. Okay, so he admitted he's talking about both reactors and weapons. Great. Let's start with reactors. Reactors, natural uranium is about 0.5, 0.7%. Okay, when you do enrichment, right? Enrichment is increasing the concentration of generally uranium-235. The way fission works, before we get into fusion, but the way fission works is you take it, you put in a moderated neutron, it absorbs it, right? Generally, technically there's other things, but for now, just trying to keep it basic, it absorbs it, becomes an unstable 236, and it actually starts to create like a dumbbell shape, okay? And it splits. That process right there is called fission. It shoots out alphas, betas, neutrons, which then go on to be moderated more and then get absorbed, and the process starts again. Gamma rays, of course, gamma rays being very penetrating, blah, 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 okay? And then you have the moderator. A lot of reactors, general reactors, going to be water, okay? Because the atomic mass unit of an H2O, well, the atomic mass unit of the hydrogen specifically, is going to be similar to the atomic mass unit of a neutron. So it's like, think of this, trying to keep it simple for you guys, think of like pool balls. Have you ever seen pool balls hit perfectly center with each other? and the energy transfers perfectly is because they're about the same units of mass. Okay, same exact thing. So think of a neutron shooting out from fission, hitting a hydrogen, right, atom, and it slows it down. Generally below 1 mega electron volts is generally what you want it. And then this uranium takes that neutron, absorbs it in, okay, and then it becomes unstable, splits, and it goes again. And think about this happening over and over and over. That's why you have control rods inside of reactors that are generally have hafnium inside of it, right? And that absorbs neutrons. That's how you control reactor level. All right. So I hope that wasn't too confusing. I try to keep it simple. If that's not simple enough, just think hot rock makes steam, steam spins, spinny, spinny, and then electricity. All right. That's good. Perfect. So back to what he said. He said that Iran's nowhere near our reactors. A general civilian reactor at a high level is going to be 20%. Okay. A smaller reactor or not as good one, 3 to 5%, anything in between. The only reactors that are at like 99%, for example, those are going to be on our U.S. Navy submarines. But that's not necessarily needed or even at all a thing for civilian reactors. Why do you think, for those asking, well, why does the Navy have 99%? It's because, one, you have to make it significantly more compact because submarines are small, okay? And on top of that, you want it to last a lot longer in between refueling, right? Because our Navy is going to, you know, they need to go on mission. They need to do stuff. You can't just be constantly taking submarines out of service to, you know, refuel or decommissioning the boat. Okay. So he said, to recap what he said, nowhere near the American, not even close to true. The IAEA, who found just before the 12-day war, not even this war, before the 12-day war, the IAEA found that Iran was actually lying, that they know of. They actually assume they're lying about other stuff that we don't know even to this day, but they were lying and they were hiding. They had IR6 centrifuges, IR6, and they have IR1s as well. And they were at greater than 60%. So definitely way higher than even a high-level civilian reactor, which again, to remind everyone, is 20%. Okay, they even found some areas that had as high as 90%, but not particularly like troves of uranium, like a lot of it at 90% that they know of, right? But I want to keep it clear. 90% is generally what you want for weapons grade. Yes, you can make, because I saw some comments saying, well, you can make it at 50%. Yeah, you can make what's called dirty bombs at 50%. But if you want something like specifically like a atomic bomb, nuclear bomb that they're trying to create, 90% and higher is where you get weapons grade uranium. This idea that Iran was nowhere near it is insane. It's not true. I have no idea where this lie came from. You can go from 60% even to 90% pretty quickly. It's not like it's a linear thing, especially with IR6 centrifuges. Now, a lot of these centrifuges were damaged during the B-2 bombing strike in the 12-day war, but we don't know the extent, and Iran themselves said that they were kind of poking at the United States and bragging that they move the uranium and they have other, centrifuges and they're going to continue and blah, 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 blah. They had about 445 kilograms. This is enough for up to 11 nukes. So this idea that they were nowhere near it is insane. It's severely incorrect. And this isn't even, those that are asking for source, the IAEA report is the first source I brought up. You can look at U.S. intelligence, Israeli, but I get it. Some people are so anti-Zionist that no matter what Israel says, it's just wrong. So you can look up the IAEA, one second, almost done. You can look at the IAEA reports that talk about, and not just this last one, go look at the ones through the years when they first found out about Natanz, right? They were hiding that. Everyone seems to forget that. I think this was before the Stuxnet program, which was U.S.-Israeli operation to fuck with their centrifuges. Even before that, they were literally hiding one of their biggest plants for many years, and then they got exposed. Honestly, it was probably by Israel, but we'll never know because the Mossad never takes credit. And so that set them back many years. But the IAEA found all this stuff. They were literally lying for years. They were lying through the JCPOA, right? The Iran deal with, sorry, not the JCPOA, the Iran deal, yeah. The Iran deal with that Obama put in. Like, give me a break. You guys don't have to like Israel. You don't have to like the war in Iran. But anyone who tells you, oh, Iran definitely wasn't, they don't fucking know what they're talking about.
Is it also true that the boom beams that were dropped on, sorry guys, I'm on TikTok, dropped on Japan were like 60% enriched? Like, you don't even have to go.
Yeah, they were not at 90%. To be fair, though, that was kind of a newer thing for us with the Manhattan Project. But yeah, that's true. They weren't at 90%. I don't know the exact. I think it might have been less than 60% even. Let me check.
If you get up there, it's the problem. Hey, Jen, I love you.
Oh, actually, it's higher than I thought. It said little boy had 64 kilograms of highly enriched uranium. It said the average enrichment was about 80%. Okay, I'll be real. That is higher than I thought. I would have thought it was actually 50 to 60, but it does say that different parts of the core range from 50 to 90%, but the average enrichment across was 80%. Okay, it's higher than I thought, but yeah. So yeah, this idea that Iran was nowhere near or not doing it, again, it's just ridiculous. There's plenty of arguments you can make that I will argue against. But there's plenty of arguments you can make about not attacking Iran or not going in at all. That this is just not one of them. Anyways, G-Man, go ahead.
Thank you, Ego.
Okay, can you hear me now? I just want to make sure.
Sure can.
Okay, so I know you like to have people put like context like before we have like a debate or anything. I'm not trying to debate really, but I'm an independent and I'm just coming from a perspective of like when we did I'm talking about the Iran war. I want to get that across. I'm talking about the Iran war. That's my topic I want to talk about.
Sure.
And I get the stuff that we did last year with the B-2 bombers, I believe, right? The B-2.
Yeah, it would be B-2 bombers.
Yeah, okay. At first, I was like, okay, I was hesitant about it. And my mother was in the military. She told me about it. I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. But us going into Iran, I don't know how to feel about that. I just want to maybe my sources might be wrong with this. But I heard that Israel was going in already and that maybe we didn't get chose to go in with them. But
when you say, real quick, just so I know, when you say go in, do you mean boots on the ground or you just mean attacking them?
No, like attack. I mean like attack,
okay,
like
gotcha.
Like a missile strike. My bad.
You're good. Just want to make sure.
That's why I mean like a missile strike. But I feel like maybe we should let Israel do it themselves, and then if they attack us, we get involved. But maybe I don't want to put Americans in harm's way as well, with my mother being and my father being in the military as well. So it's like like a type of subject like that is like I don't know. So I just want to like maybe get your advice or opinion on it. And yeah, so.
Sure, I can answer that, but real quick, I just want to answer this in the chat. I don't remember which chat it was, honestly, but somebody asked, how long does it take to go from 60 to 80% enrichment? It depends on, obviously, a lot of factors, but it can take weeks. You can go 1 to 2 weeks. You can go from 60 to 80%. But again, it just depends on the factors. IR6 centrifuges are pretty efficient, but we don't know exactly how many were how many were destroyed, because really the biggest destruction for the centrifuges, from my understanding from reports, wasn't even the bombing of the B-2 bombers. It was actually some of the Israeli bombing before we sent in the B-2 bombers. Not because Israel had the capability to actually hit that far down, but what they did was they hit a lot of the electronic supplies that were surface level, and they caught, again, as some reports say, they caught Iran by surprise, which that's true. And what happened was they were running them when Israel took them out. So it sent a surge that overloaded a lot of the centrifuges. How many? I have no idea. How many did the B-2 take out? I have no idea. Nobody knows that answer. So it just really depends. If a lot were survived, or if they have other locations that the IAEA hasn't found, which they assume they do, the United States, Israel doesn't know, then they could, in weeks, 1 week, go from 60 to 80%. But if they don't, then it can take months. It can take a year. So it just really depends. To answer your question, G-Man, yeah, so I don't agree with this idea of just like letting Israel. I actually really like that Israel and America did an operation together, because it really showed the capability and the power and the efficiency when America and Israel are aligned, which is something that a lot of anti-Semites and a lot of anti-Israel, or sometimes they're both anti-Israel, anti-Semites, they don't understand. They've been using that. Well, when does Israel ever fight with us? Blah, blah, blah. So this war, we had some of our greatest allies in history, right? Greatest and most historical allies, and they are. UK, was one of them. They left us to the wind. They chose Islamism. They not only said, we're not joining you or helping you, which is fine. They're a sovereign country. They don't need to. It says a lot, but they don't need to. That's fine. That's not the problem I have. They said, we're not going to allow you to use our bases. We're not helping you in any way, not even for defensive measures. This is one of our oldest allies and should be our greatest ally if you think about it. We come from the UK, right? We were colonies of the British Empire, and they left us, and that's fine. They can make that decision. They're a sovereign country, but it speaks terms. Israel not only didn't, but, and I'm going to repeat what Pete Hegseth said, because it was a great speech, and if you can't top it, just steal it. Pete Hegseth said it perfectly. Capable allies. I don't want just good allies because there's a history and maybe there's some good trade, maybe at times. I want capable allies. Israel and America are acting more efficient than anything in modern history I've ever seen in modern warfare. And it's not even close. Not only do they take out so many leaders, some reports as high as 200, depending on what you think of as a leader, but even just small-time leaders in the military, in just the first 30 seconds to first few strikes, right? The first day, let's say. They are going in, Israel, and they're attacking strategic locations, and then they come out to go refuel or switch out or whatever, and America's immediately going in, doing the same thing, and they're doing this like clockwork. It's insane how efficient they are, right? We've never seen this with the many other militaries that we have fought with, right? UK, Canada, France, sometimes Germany, etc. Now, here's another thing I want to mention. The UK comes out and says, after they get attacked in Cyprus, it was a UK base, but in Cyprus, they first come out and Starmer's like, well, we don't know if Iran maybe it was an accident. They didn't mean to attack us. And then Iran sends a drone and attacks them again. Okay? And then he goes, okay, they are attacking us. Well, America, we'll allow you maybe to use our bases for defensive things only. That's our greatest ally, by the way, okay? And then Starmer, after we've already effectively have won this war, I mean, their navy's destroyed, their air force is destroyed, their leaders have been destroyed and killed, all of that. Now Starmer's coming out and saying, oh yeah, we're going to help you, America. We're here. We're going to send a couple carriers your way because, we're best friends, remember? And of course, Trump, which I loved this. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Trump fan, but this was incredible. Trump gets on his little tweets or Truth Social, and he goes, essentially, they want to send 2 aircraft carriers our way. And then he goes to Starmer and he says, no thanks, we don't need it. He said, we will remember your response as our best friends, our great allies, the UK and the US, right? We go back very far. We will remember your lack of response, and we do not need allies who only enter wars after they've already been won. Israel is not just an amazing ally that we get a lot from, especially in intelligence and technology. They are a capable ally. Thank you for the super chat, ADA. Appreciate it. Adaptive Agile.
Could I speak, Nick?
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't want to interrupt you while you're talking. So.
No, you're good, bro. I appreciate it.
So I understand what you mean with that. Like I want to get this across the board. I'm not Iranian. I'm not sympathizing with the regime. They killed 32,000 people. I'm not sympathizing with the regime. They should be gone. But I get we're in it now. It's just like I have certain concerns. Like, is a regime change going to happen? Is that going to happen? Are we going to be radicalizing a whole other generation? I know I'm getting off kind of like going across the board, but I'm just asking, like, I have certain concerns with things. I'm not trying to say everything's wrong with this whole operation. I don't want us to fail, of course. We're America. I don't want my own country to fail. I just have certain concerns with the game plan. Like, I know the game plan isn't like regime change, but I feel like that's what needs to be done if we want to get Iran out there. Like,
so regime change is not one of the goals that have even been listed by America. Of course, it's very much desired. Even if we can get in a semi-pro-American regime, that's a huge win for us. But to be fair to the administration, that's not even one of the goals. And they said it's really not our job. But of course, that's something we would love to help with while we're already doing our goals. But if they finish all of their goals, and let's say the regime doesn't change, I don't think America's going to say, all right, well, we're going to just keep going until the regime changes. At least that's the policy right now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But I wanted to ask you also, what do you think about the take, like, you're radicalizing a whole nother generation of people with like the stuff that's going on?
How are you radicalizing them?
I'm saying Khomeini, like he got his parent, his dad, mom dead, his children are dead.
Yeah, but he said a whole generation, not a person. That guy was already radicalized. I promise you, Moshtaba, who you're talking about. Mujtaba is not someone who's like, I wasn't that radical, but now that you've killed my mom and my dad, like, no, dude, that guy's radical.
Okay,
You said we're radicalizing a whole generation. Now, that doesn't make any sense. Now, it makes sense a little bit in Iraq, Afghanistan, because none of the people really liked us there anyways, other than minority people that actually helped us during those wars. This is the opposite. The Iranian people are literally celebrating and loving us, so much so that the IRGC has now started slaughtering people in the streets for even showing enthusiasm. If they are in the streets, just showing enthusiasm, they are killed in the streets for it. So, yeah, so it's honestly, I get what you're saying, because you're like thinking, oh, Iraq. This is not Iraq. This is not Afghanistan. It's not the same, okay? These people are literally around the diaspora, around the world, and in Iran are cheering this on. So you can't say that it's going to radicalize them. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it's going to be Iraq. I don't think it's going to be like 20 plus years. Like, I don't think it's going to be a year. It's just like, I don't know. I just feel like every day I'm waking up, I'm trying to look at news, trying to see what's going to happen. Let's see if it's going to, I don't know. It just feels like maybe this might be the first real war as an adult that I'm like, that's going on. So I'm a little anxious, but I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to describe. I just want to see like what's going on, what's going to happen.
Sure. I assume it came from somewhere. Okay. You have anything else?
No. Thank you so much,
brother. Appreciate you. Thank you. Son, are you still here?
Ooh, just in time for a song, that'll be. See, working pretty fast tonight.
All right, I'll let more guests up because we have a lot of guests. Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I'm going to play a song real quick, y'all. So,
A little break.
I've been saying this past few days, but if for some reason you're new here on YouTube, every 150,000 likes we get on TikTok, I play a song called APAC Money. It's an AI song that my friend Minnie's Peace made, but the crowd loves it. And what you do, if you want, what you do in the comments while the song is playing, you throw in your flag, your country's flag. Obviously, a lot of it's going to be American, which I love to see, so I love to see all the American flags. But hey, if you're from Canada, we're not all perfect, but that's fine. If you're from Canada, throw in the Canadian flag. If you're from France, once again, we're not all perfect. Throw in the French flag, throw in your flag, throw in the Israeli flag. If you support Israel, on top of your flag, of course. I want to see your guys' flags. And here we go.
Yeah. Y'all know what to do.
Drip.
Some love, light some light.
Must be Friday. It's not the moon, it's the money. Let's go. Back money, I'll be power talking funny. Money flows, money. Shalom, baby, tachon, shalom, you be tachon, peace and security. Back money, capital energy. Lasers in space, rumors online, meanwhile in DC, they're catching the line. Left, right, same green scene. Money buys truth on your news feed screen. 7K a post has barra online, meanwhile in Qatar, they're catching the line. Left, right, same green scene. Money buys misinformation in your school. APAC money, lobby power talking funny. The money flows, money. Shalom, baby, tachon, shalom, you be tachon, peace and security. APAC money, capital energy. Conjuring the banks. Rumors online, meanwhile in DC, they're catching the line.
We got South Africa, we got Canada.
Money buys truth on your news feed screen.
Aaron, good morning.
Thank you, Aaron.
Israel strong. Folks come quick
When the love is wrong. Someone else said, oh, South Africa though.
money. Kesef Zorem again.
Kesef Zorem again. Okay, we got the. Let's see, we have Australia, Canada, South Africa. We have the Jordanian flag without the star. I don't really get what that is, but all right. Tilly768, your Jordanian flag is missing the star. I don't get it. Is that Somalia? What?
Adrian, I love you. I love you.
And then we have a pretty interesting way to make the Iranian flag. I like that. Put a little green square with the lion emoji, sun emoji, red square. Where do I find the metal version? Yeah, I had to put that up on the YouTube. I do have a metal version. We gotta. Maybe if we get to 300,000 likes, I'll play the metal version next, you guys. It's not the same song. It's a different song, but it is metal. It's more like hard rock. I wouldn't call it metal, but yeah, it's nice. All right, we got a lot of guest requests, so.
All I'm singing in my head is the Eurovision song.
Michelle.
I'm learning French.
Mi belle.
I do ma belle. Something like
Ma
that.
belle.
Je t'aime. Michelle. Thank you, Aaron.
Je t'aime.
Anyway, check it out if you haven't. It's
All right,
good.
listen, 3 BTs in
better
a
than
trench
us.
coat. You said it's trash. Look, I didn't like it at first either, because I even told Danielle, you can ask her, I was like, I don't really like it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it. But I gotta be honest, after listening to some of the other songs being released, I like it a lot better now. I think a lot of the songs this year are trash. I haven't listened to all of them. I've listened to about a third of them, but they are not good.
Some of them are
Especially
good.
Austria, they're the ones that won last year. Their song this year is trash.
Oh, you didn't even let me play you the Greek one. The Greek. If you're from Greece, you should fucking boycott that shit. What is that? Oh my god! Like if
I'm
you
just
play
saying though,
Romania right now-
Austria. I'm just saying Austria won last year. You guys had the best song, and then you came out with this shit. I'm like, what happened? Seffi is from Austria in the chat. She agrees.
3 B2s and checker. We aren't going to do well, but if Danielle's husband can convince me, I'll listen. Look, I like the song. I don't think we're gonna win.
I wish
think we're gonna do pretty. Have you heard the other songs? There's a few good ones.
I wish the Israeli song had a little bit more Hebrew in it. Like, come on, let's get the
It
Hebrew
has more
in there.
Hebrew than the last 2 years combined.
Yeah, but
The first-
October
the first verse
Rain.
is in Hebrew,
But
and
no,
the rest
but October Rain. Or sorry, what does she call it? Hurricane, yeah. The weakened version. But anyways, at least like when they put the Hebrew at the end, it was very powerful and emotional. Like I agree, it didn't have that much Hebrew, but it was placed right. But this one, it's like it's at the beginning. And don't get me wrong, I think the song sounds great. It's very catchy. Like I said, when I heard it first, I was like, I don't really like it. It's okay. But once I listened to it a little bit more, I'm like, you know what? Actually, he has a very powerful voice. I don't know why we're talking about this. Let's move on.
Yeah. You know, I have to hype it up a little bit every year. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, Blake, go ahead.
Hey, what's up? How's it going, man?
Good.
So I had, there's obviously a lot to talk about, but I had two main points that I wanted to discuss with you. The first one was when you were talking about the Bible and basically Revelation 3:9. I actually think that your assessment of that verse is fairly accurate, and I don't use that as a point of contention against the state of Israel. But I do think there's other verses that definitely show that Christians do not have a inherent obligation to support Israel, and I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
Well, to be fair, before I answer that, and I think you do understand this, so maybe I'm saying this for no reason, but I want to make sure we're on the same page. I was simply answering that guy's claim. That wasn't bringing that in to try to say this proves that Christians should. That's separate. Are we on the same page? That I was just answering his claim. Okay, cool. As for Christians, look, Christians do whatever they want, dude. Especially depending on the denomination. There's over 10,000, I think, denominations of Christianity. So it's like, even if one Christian says to another Christian, you need to do this or that, like, do whatever you want. However, when you say obligation, first off, I don't think there's anything that ever says obligation. It does say, if those that bless you will be blessed. But even then, it doesn't particularly say you need to do this.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing is that when it says that in Genesis, it's talking about the old covenant Israel, which I'm assuming that you are Jewish.
I'm not.
So obviously, oh, okay, you're not. Well, a Jewish person would have a different perspective on what the Bible means when it says Israel versus what a Christian would apply to the term Israel.
Real quick, I'm gonna just one. It's not in the book of Genesis. It's actually a common mistake. In the book of Genesis, it talks about Abram, right? Later Abraham. It's actually, I believe, in Numbers where it talks about Israel, right? It says, because, and by the way, this is brought up a lot. Some pro-Palestinians or anti-Semites try to say, it wasn't even talking about Israel, it's talking about Abram or Abraham. It's like, well, yeah, but if you just keep going in Numbers, it says it to specifically Israel. But that being said, you said that's talking about the Old Covenant. Did the Old Covenant go away? Did God abandon his people? Because I'm pretty sure also in the Old Testament, it says that this will be an everlasting covenant and it'll only end when the lights in the sky, the stars diminish, the sun goes out and extinguishes. So do you think God was wrong? Do you think he lied? Do you think he changed his mind?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
God absolutely kept his promise with Israel, and I do not believe in replacement theology. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I am.
Yes, but the new covenant is a replacement of the old, but it becomes fulfilled through Christ. Therefore, the Israel of the New Testament is Jews and Gentiles who believe in Christ. So,
well, no, I don't disagree with that in terms of what most Christians, again, depending on the denomination, what most Christians believe. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely certain fringe denominations that don't understand that concept as much, that use dispensational theology.
Well, let me ask you just more directly, because Paul did say, of course, that it's not just literal circumcision, but of the heart. But also, when you look at Romans chapter 11, kind of goes against what you're saying, and that's the New Testament. However, what replacement theology is the idea of replacing Israel. Do you believe that, or do you believe Israel is still the children of Israel?
No. So if you read Paul, he says many times that the children of Israel are children through faith and not by blood. So we are descendants of Abraham through faith and no longer through the bloodline of Abraham. Also in Romans 11, which I think is what you were quoting when Paul specifically says that God did not abandon his people. What he means when he's saying that is that the Jews were not rejected by Christ, the same way that Sodom and Gomorrah were banished away from Christ, from God, the way that they can never be saved. He is saying that the Jews can always be saved in Romans 11, but the ones that believe in Christ, such as Paul himself, who was an Israelite, who believed in Christ, he chooses to believe in Christ, therefore he remains in the remnant that Paul is speaking about. The Jews who turn their back to Christ and crucified him are the ones being cast out. That's why when Paul says the elect of the remnant, we don't believe in predetermination. We don't believe in a chosen people by God. We believe that we choose to be with God. Therefore, the elect is not who God chooses, but it is those who choose him. So, of course, any Jewish person can choose to follow Christ and be saved. But other than that, there is neither Jew nor Gentile. And I don't think there is a biblical obligation. If this is not like your main argument, then we could talk about something else. But I just like to bring that up.
Well, I have to answer it because you said some things I agree with, some things not so much. But first, thank you for the super chat, K. Jane. Been following you for a few years now. I love watching your lives. Your knowledge is crazy. Also, your wife is beautiful, smart, and funny. Yes, she is. You two are a total power couple.
That's my friend.
Yeah, I know she is. God bless both of you. Thank you, KJ. Yeah, so I agree again with people's, once again, their sort of interpretation, depending on the denomination. However, when you look at, now, this isn't going to go well because obviously you're a Christian, so you're going to see Paul just the same. Paul's words don't always particularly match the words of Jesus. Also particularly doesn't match the word of God. I understand the idea of there's both Jew and Gentile. Of course I believe that. In fact, Jews believe that as well. In fact, Jews are the only Abrahamic religion that doesn't believe you have to go to their religion to be saved or to not burn in hell. Or again, depending on the denomination, some Christians believe more in like purgatory, some believe you're just going to like burn in hell. But nonetheless, and all Muslims believe that unbelievers will burned to the point. I think it says like your skin will be burned off and it'll regrow for all of eternity and continue to be burned off. Jews are the only ones that say no. We all have, especially if all the 7 laws of Noah, and even if you're kind of a bad person, you need to be cleansed. But nonetheless, we all have a place in the life to come. And so I do find that interesting because Jews are the only ones that believe that. And I'm not Jewish. I'm not Christian. I'm a cradle Catholic, but I don't consider myself Christian. I'm not Jewish. I'm not Muslim. But when I look at objectively the 3 Abrahamic faiths, and I have the 3 Abrahamic faiths, and I have read the Quran twice. I've read the New International Version, King James Version. Kind of want to read the New King James Version next. I've read the Tanakh, the Torah Stone Edition, JPS. I read all of them. When I look at it objectively, the Jews' belief in God is the only one that actually does make sense to me in that like raw form. I'm not talking about necessarily like Jesus or how Allah says things. I'm talking about the raw form of what they believe in the person that's not of that faith. Jews are the only ones that make sense. There's some things Christians believe that only make sense, or not only, but makes the most sense compared to the 3 Abrahamic faiths.
I totally see what you're saying, and we could talk all day about salvation within different Abrahamic religions, but I'm talking specifically about the covenant that God makes with Israel, and what that means to a Christian and what that means to a Jewish person.
You believe the covenant passed on to you?
Well, that's what Paul says in Romans 11. It's not passed on to me because God didn't choose me, but what Jesus did was he tore the veil and basically allowed anyone to choose him.
Right, so you believe he took away the covenants and then made a new covenant.
No. It's not a different covenant. It is the same covenant. The way Paul describes it is as a tree. The tree is Israel, and that covenant is with Israel. And that covenant is not broken. But what Paul describes is that there's branches that were cut away so that other branches can be grafted in. And
I know what he said.
The Christians that remained faithful, the Jews that remained faithful, remained in the tree, and that covenant was not broken. But the Jews that were not faithful were broken away so that the Gentiles can be grafted in. And that covenant is with the church that Jesus Christ established.
So it's the exact same covenant?
It's not the exact same.
In other words, it's a new covenant? It's not the same one being grafted in. It's okay. So that's what I said, and you said no. So you agree it's a new covenant.
It's new in the way.
Sorry, you're breaking in and out.
It's replaced and entirely new. It is new in terms of it's changed. Like if I have a piece of paper and I write a line on it, it's not a new piece of paper, but it is a new form of that.
Sure, but that's not a good example. A better example would be if you wrote a sentence and then you cross that sentence out and write a new sentence. It would be a different sentence.
Yeah, but that's not what happens because the line isn't crossed out completely.
Okay, I think the better argument, and I see someone making it in the chat, and again, I'm not Christian, but if I was arguing from the Christian perspective, I think the better argument, and I'm not telling you what to say, but I think the better argument would be to say that it's the completion of the whole covenant and it's a continuation. I wouldn't particularly use the wording you are, but again, I'm not trying to tell you what to say. It's just that's how I would answer it. And that might be true, by the way. That totally could be true. Jesus Christ totally could be returning, and the everything you're saying could 100% be true. Everything the Jews are saying could be 100% true. Technically, everything Muslims could be saying could be 100% true, or maybe we're all wrong and nothing happens after.
I agree with you, and I'm not saying everyone has to agree with me. Like if you're Jewish and you don't believe in Jesus, then obviously you're not going to agree with me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to convert anyone here. I'm just defending, I guess, Christian theology. But there is a new covenant. Jesus Christ himself said, I am the new covenant. This is the blood of the new covenant, which is, like I said, a fulfillment of the old brought into new, but it's still the same covenant. Israel is the same. It's always with Israel. It's just that who is defined as Israel? It is not the bloodline of Abraham, but it is the bloodline of Abraham through faith.
So who was it that had the prophecy that the third temple will be rebuilt? Literally the temple, not like a figurative figure. That Ezekiel, right?
I think so, yes.
Okay, so when he says that, do you believe that prophecy will never be fulfilled? Because as a Christian, you probably don't believe necessarily in the third temple, and you see that as a metaphor of the church or the Christian people.
No, I absolutely do believe in the new temple being built.
Oh, you do? Okay, well, a lot of Christians don't. Fair enough. Okay, so then why would the third temple even be built if you believe that the covenant has changed? Don't use that word. What's the purpose of the third temple?
Because Paul does speak of a remnant of the old Israel, and there will be many Jews who do come to faith and do come to Christ, and that God has preserved to be saved.
I think Paul says all Israelites will be saved, doesn't he? Let me see. Hold on. I know it's somewhere in Romans.
No, he doesn't say all Israelites will be saved. He says all of Israel will be saved.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. That's actually fair.
And I forget which verse it is, but I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, I do not want you to be ignorant. While you look that up, I don't want you to be ignorant of this mystery, brothers and sisters, so that you may not be conceited. Israel has experienced a hardening in part until the full number of the Gentiles has come in. And in this way, all Israel will be saved. As it is written, the deliverer will come from Zion. He will turn godlessness away from Jacob. And this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. As far as the gospel is concerned, they are enemies for your sake. As far as election is concerned, they are loved and count of the patriarchs, for God's gifts and his Paul are irrevocable. Just as you, who were at one time disobedient to God, have now received a mercy as a result of their disobedience, other two have now become disobedient in order that they too may now receive mercy as a result of God's mercy of you. I mean, yeah, he does say Israel, but I think he is kind of specifically talking about Jews. But
do you notice that when he says that it's going to be when all the Gentiles are grafted in, then all of Israel will be saved? So what he's saying is that Israel is the body of believers and no longer a genetic bloodline. Another verse is it's Galatians 3:7 is the one I
just want to point out real quick that I don't know why Christians do say this a lot with this whole like genetic bloodline, although that is the majority true, but that's never been even a thing in Judaism. Ruth, who is the mother of the Messiah, whether you believe that's Jesus or the Mashiach later or whatever you believe, Ruth is the mother. She's not blood. She was a convert. So I never understood why people keep saying like, oh yeah, he just moved away from like the bloodline. That's not particularly ever been a thing. Although, yes, I agree, it was the majority with the children of Israel, Jacob specifically.
Yeah, I guess it's not 100% bloodline, but I think you kind of get my point. Like,
yeah.
Jews of the Old Testament is what I'm mainly referring to.
Fair enough. Real quick, I want to just read this real quick. Thank you for the super chat. Cave runs as I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Hey Nick, an Iranian American here, and thank you for being our voice and covering the truth about this war and true face of the regime. Much love. Also, how do I get on the stage to talk, King Reza Pahlavi? You have to come onto the TikTok live. It's Nick Mattel Live. So just like my username on YouTube, just add the word live at the end on TikTok, and you'll see it, and you can request if you have enough followers. Sometimes it doesn't let you. So sorry. Go ahead, Blake.
Yeah. All right. Also, one more thing, and then we can move away from like the biblical talk.
Okay, sure.
You outside, bro?
Also in Galatians 3:7, Paul, in this letter from Paul, he says, "Know then that it is not those of faith who are the sons of Abraham. It is not it is the faith of the children who are the faith of the children of Abraham. So it is a spiritual descendant. It is not a physical lineage, but a spiritual lineage that Christ brings into the world and allows Gentiles to be saved. Because before the Gentiles were able to be saved, it was only the Jews. But we could talk about religion.
That's not true either, though. See, that's the problem. Is that's not actually true. But you're right. I do know that verse from Paul. Again, Paul's words are not the same as God's.
That's a better way to put it.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I think you're reading that verse right. I'm just saying, and no offense to the Christian in the chat, but it's just wrong. It's just not true. But I understand that that's what he believed. It's listen, I look at it more objectively. Obviously, a Christian is going to have faith. I even look at Jewish texts objectively, and they're going to have faith, and they're not going to agree with me. But when I look at things objectively, I do see a bit of a difference between the word of God and the word of Paul. Now, of course, if you're a Christian, you're not going to particularly see the difference because you're going to believe Paul was divinely inspired. And I totally get that. Just like I get how a Muslim believes that Muhammad split the moon in half and put it back together. I don't believe that, but I get they do. But I do see a difference in the words of how Jesus spoke versus how Paul spoke. And I definitely see the difference in how God would speak versus Paul. So I find it objectively a little odd, but I'm also willing to admit maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm just not reading it right.
That's valid. I would like to ask you a question. Do you believe in heaven or an afterlife?
I do.
And if you do believe in that, how would you think that is the mode of attaining that salvation or reaching heaven?
I do not like the idea, and I think a lot of Christians and Muslims do this significantly more than at least Jews or I guess myself. I don't like the belief in just being like kind of either scared into heaven. And I know I'm using a little bit of tongue in cheek, but I'm using for lack of better terms. Like if you don't do this, you're going to go to this other thing and it's really bad. You're going to burn, right? And it's like, I don't particularly believe in a God that has to scare you into at least not being punished. Because it does sound scary. Maybe not everyone else thinks that way. Maybe people are like, no, it's not meant to be scary. For me, it sounds scary. So maybe I'm wrong. And for me, it sounds scary. On the other end, I don't believe in focusing so much on the afterlife. I think we need to focus more on the here and now. I think so many people are looking so far ahead that they're thinking too much about the afterlife. Definitely Muslims. Christians, I think, are a bit of a balance between Muslims and Jews. Jews are very much the here and now. Muslims are very much just afterlife. I don't care. I'll be a fucking martyr. Die. I don't give a shit. They're like a death cult. Christians, I think, are a balance. And that's something I really do like about Christians more than the other Abrahamic faiths. I think Christians really find that good balance between thinking a lot, but also understanding their belief in the afterlife. Jews, I think a little too much. And they all argue with each other consistently, and they're thinking a little too much. I think there's a lot of advantages to that because it causes them to be very thinking people, and they develop a lot of stuff, whether it's good for just humanity or even faith-wise. But I think they're just a little bit too much on that. I think Muslims are a little bit too much on the other side. I think Christians find that good balance. But for me, to answer your question, if you're forcing me to answer about like what heaven or afterlife, I see it as all people that have done good in the world. Obviously, we all need a little bit of cleansing. Nobody's perfect. As long as you're not just straight out evil. I believe that the more evil you do, like literal evil, you get disconnected from God. I don't believe in this necessary hell, if you will. Like this, you're going to go where you burn and there's this like guy with horns or whatever. I don't think anyone believes that the devil has horns, but you get what I'm saying. I don't believe in that, but I do believe you get disconnected from God. Like your relationship with God gets severed. But for most people, the relationship is better or worse. And I think regardless, Jew, Gentile, Christian, atheist even, if you're a good person and you did great things in the world, then you will have a connection to God. And there's something to end, one more sentence. There's something I really like that I've read in the Talmud. I think it's in the Talmud or it's one of the commentary. And I really enjoyed this because it makes a lot of sense to me. In Judaism, it says, obviously, we want you to do the mitzvot, which for those that don't know what mitzvot are, that's like the commandments, if you will, good deeds, to put it lightly. We rather you do both the mitzvot and believe in God. But if you had to get rid of one, you know what Judaism says? And I think it's the only one that would say this.
Keep the mitzvot.
Keep the mitzvot. Get rid of God. And the reason it says that is not because they want that, but it's better to be good and heal the world, and that will bring you back to God, is what it says. It says if you continue to do mitzvot, you will soon come back to God. Whereas if you just believe in God, it's kind of like a lot of the Christians in the chat I'm reading, right? They believe in just like, oh, I believe in God, but they're not doing good deeds that a lot of Christians do, by the way. Christians are the best at it. They do a lot of good deeds. And there's a lot of Christians that are like, I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. You don't believe in Jesus, you're going to burn. And then meanwhile, it's like, what are you doing for the world? Nothing? Obviously, again, most Christians.
I totally agree. I actually completely agree with you because I think there's a big dichotomy within Christians where you have the super faith-focused Christians that think, oh, like I'm like a high church Protestant, I guess you can say.
Sure.
But like super like far gone like evangelical Christians will say, oh, faith is all you need. You can live like a complete sinner, a complete evil person, but as long as you have faith, you'll always be saved. And then you have like super devout Catholics that are like, you have to follow every single rule or else you're going to go to hell. If you miss church on Sunday, I do think that it is important to keep
a lot of it is influenced by man and like to say like it's okay to be a sinner. Like I'm not a Christian, but I'm pretty sure Jesus sat with sinners, but he didn't encourage them to keep on sinning, did he?
Yeah, of course, but guess what? They still did sin, and so did you, and so did I, and so did
Right,
everyone.
of course,
So
everyone
it's
sins.
impossible
Right, of
to
course. My
not-
point is, you can't just say, "Oh, keep sinning and you'll be fine."
Real quick, I do want to, because Andrew's been waiting a long time. You can say Blake, but Andrew, did you want to discuss something else, or you kind of want to chime in? Are you Christian, or you want to chime in about theology, or did you want to discuss something else?
Something else, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up with Blake then just a little bit because you've been waiting very patiently, and I want to give you that chance. So, Blake, I'm going to wrap up with the theology talk. You can stay maybe, but I just want to bring Andrew in because he's been waiting a long time.
Yeah, for sure. You can give Andrew the floor. I can hang around for a minute.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Andrew, go ahead, man.
Yeah, and you can kind of throw me off the screen if you don't want to dive into this. So I watched the Sneeko debate that you had.
Right.
And I thought it was quite interesting. That's where I learned of you. That just happened to pop up on my YouTube feed. And it's the first time in a long time I've been kind of enthralled in a debate because of how one-sided it was. And I was just wondering if you could help me out with a little bit of the lore.
Sure.
Let me just what's up? Oh, sorry, so sorry. Thank you, Jeanette.
Oh, anyway, I was just wondering if you could help me out with the lore here. How did that come to be?
You're talking about the debate?
Yeah.
Real quick, are you Andrew Wilson?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay. You just sounded exactly like him. I like your stuff too. I mean, obviously you and I don't necessarily always agree and stuff, but I really, just to give a quick shout out, I really enjoy, even when I don't agree with you, the way you kind of direct conversations into your favor. I think you do a really good job at that. But anyways,
I appreciate that. I think you're quite good. I think you're a good debate. You have a good mix of logic with history. I try to do the same thing. The history I focus on is not geopolitical in nature for the Middle East specifically, like yours is.
sure.
But I focus more on America, and I'll do the same thing. Mix a lot of logic with your politics, and I think that's a good mix. I think you do the same thing, which is. I guess we're all done blazing each other.
Right. Yeah. So I'll answer your question.
Andrew, I'm Nick's wife. It's nice to meet you, Andrew. Pleasure.
Yeah. No, I just we're done. I'll answer your question. I saw the debate you did with Dave Smith, and that's specifically what I was talking about. But anyways, to answer your question, how it came about the debate,
I'm sure Dave is probably, if you find out, the biggest fan of Dave Smith.
I'm not, but I still I like to still watch at least some of the more famous people that debate more consistently, even if I don't agree with them. In fact, I really like to watch people I don't agree with. But you had this way where he's just like, oh, you think this is like a good tactic? It's like, actually it is, because he's forcing you to admit this, or you're being a hypocrite, and you really nailed that. But anyways, to answer your question, it wasn't like I was trying. Me and Sneeko didn't have like a talk, like, hey, you want to debate? What happened was, I normally, when I do these lives, which I normally just do on TikTok, I only just started recently going more on YouTube and X at the same time. What I do is, when I don't have guest requests, I will bring up Omi TV or Umingle. I like Umingle because you can type in like tags, type in Islam, Arab, Israel, Iran, America, whatever, stuff like that, and it tries to connect you with those people. But somebody was just messaging me like, hey, Sneeko's going through Omi TV right now. And I was like, okay. I said, look, I doubt we'll connect. What are the odds? But I'll just go on Omi TV. If I find him, I find him. If I don't, I don't. I'm just going to continue on with my normal live stream. And about like an hour after that, we actually just did connect, and the rest is what you saw.
I see. Okay, well, that answers that question. Because I was like, well, where the hell did this guy come from? And then the second thing I had is, it looked to me during the course of the debate that Sneeko was becoming infuriated. I think that his position on this is the more common position that you see, because X has been completely inundated with specific rhetoric. I've always thought that a lot of X is inundated with foreigners, and that's what I see more than anything else, and that there's a lot of foreign propaganda that's there. I tend to actually stay away from this topic because of how much I get in the way of death threats and you're going to die and all that. Oh, sorry, TikTok friendly terms. How much people DM me, we're going to unalive your whole family, blah, 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 blah.
It's crazy.
So I actually tend to stay clear. And the more high profile you are, the worse it gets, right? But I wonder I'm sure that you're aware of all that propaganda, but he seemed completely unprepared for the middle section of that debate. So I think on the history part, he was at least kind of keeping up, a little bit. But when he got to the center point, when you were utilizing logic with him, he seemed completely confused. Did you note that as well?
Yes, and I actually talked about this earlier when I started today's live stream, and I was trying to tell people, because I think there's a lot of pro-Israeli debaters that, look, love all you guys, I'm not trying to talk shit, but I'm trying to help. I think the way to properly do debate, and a lot of pro-Israeli debaters don't do well, is one, too much emotion. And I get it, it's an emotional topic, if you will, but I don't like to do that. I'm not saying I'm not human, emotion happens, got it, but try to throw that out. And also, more importantly, stop being so defensive and get more offensive. So what I brought up specifically is there's a part where Sneeko, I don't know, there's a couple parts, so let me try to remember an example. There's a part where he says in the full debate, well, yeah, it doesn't start on October 7th, da, da, da. I never said that, but yeah, that's a common topic, and it's a common thing that pro-Palestinians say. It didn't start on October 7th. Interestingly enough, I don't believe anyone actually believes the literal conflict. Now, the context obviously started on October 7th of this context, but I've never heard anyone say the whole conflict started on October 7th. But unfortunately, instead of pros always bringing that up, they start to argue back and they try to explain. And of course, they might give good answers. But I did the opposite with him. I said, okay, tell me when it did start. He's like, well, 1948. And I'm like, you sound just as dumb as someone who says that the entire conflict started on October 7th. And so I think what happens, to answer your question, is that Sneeko, like a lot of pro-Palestinians, they have their talking points, and they're used to a lot of pro-Israelis answering back with almost the same talking point. And so they get ready to give their second talking point. So when you change that up on them and say, I agree with you, actually, so why are you telling me this? I think he got confused, and therefore he got angry.
Yeah, the thing is, I wonder if I could get your take on just two more quick things, and then
Sure.
I'll have your hair so that you can keep the callers up. Do you remember a movie came out years ago called Zeitgeist?
I've never seen it. Kind of understand.
Watch it.
No, okay.
Watch
yeah,
it.
let me write that down.
Here's why.
What's it called?
Here's why you should watch it. Zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Zeitgeist.
G-E-I-T. Yeah, G-E-I-S-T, I think.
Yeah, I got it.
But here's why I would recommend that you watch the movie. You can kind of skip the entire first half, which is just on religion. But the second half is where we move into like the Rothschilds and the central banking conspiracy and all of this type of stuff. This was kind of the first movie that I remember that really introduced those concepts in a major way that really grabbed the public's attention. And then from there, that's where the kind of like Jewish banker thing came from. And these Jewish bankers that run the world, this and that. Now, I do think that there are criminal gangs who run the world, absolutely, and I think some of them are Jewish.
Sure, of course.
Like no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Sure, of course, of course.
I do think that it is vastly more complex. There's an Anglo elite, for instance. There's no doubt that that's true. But this aside, that's another thing I wanted to kind of put out there for you. Is like you should check that out because I think a lot of this really started moving the ethos from that movie. That was around the loose change time. You remember that, the loose change 9/11 documentary, which was a big deal. And then the last question that I had for you is, are you willing to do more debates against really high-profile people who are on the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel side?
Yeah, I'll debate anyone. I don't. I already to already give you a little bit of context. Sean Kelly reached out
because I know a lot of them. Well, Sean Kelly.
Andrew, in this topic,
listen, stay away from
don't
Sean
talk
Kelly.
to anybody. Don't talk to anybody.
Stay away from. Here's why you stay away from Sean Kelly. His whole channel's botted. You can go look for yourself.
I know it is.
The guy gets 200 views on a great day. Just stay clear. I'm not. It's up to you what you do. You know what I mean? But
the reason I brought him up in context was because he is trying to set up a debate. At first, he was like, hey, I can set up, I know Kenny Ko and Jake Shields. And I was like, well, they're both, again, TikTok language, but I'll just say regarded. And I said, so I'll do a 2v1, right? I said,
nobody's.
Right. I said I'll do a 2v1 at best because I like one-on-one. It's like Sneeko, right? I ran into Sneeko, but it's not. I don't think people are giving me a good job on Sneeko. Okay, look, I appreciate it, but at the same time, like he's he's not good. He's not smart with this topic. But anyways, long story short, Jake Shields backed out. He doesn't want to debate me at all, like not even one-on-one. So now they're trying to get like maybe Kenny Cohen, Dan Blazarian. I think they're both, again, I'm with you. They're like really nobodies that got famous because they just say the like most edgy, outrageous shit.
Yeah, the entire even the Wignats will admit that Jake Shields is just a useful mouthpiece because he's a low IQ idiot. Okay, so like even they admit that. So, but the thing is like I'm actually interested in hosting. I don't host debates as much as I used to on my channel.
Sure.
But it would be I don't know, I put hundreds of thousands of views on it. I am interested in actually hosting one with somebody who's very skilled on the pro-Israeli side against somebody who's actually very skilled on the pro-Palestinian side. If you're interested.
Yeah, I'm always down to talk with people.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. I
Cool.
appreciate your time, man. Thanks for filling
Appreciate it,
in those
Andrew.
blanks
Let me, is this your main profile? I'll shoot you a follow or something. All right, Andrew, take care. Bye-bye.
Can you kick me out of here? I don't know how to do that.
I got you. There you go. Yeah, if you guys, what I was talking about, Andrew Wilson. Like I said, I don't, which is fine. I actually really like to watch people I sometimes agree with, sometimes don't. A lot of conservative politics. Me and Andrew are pretty much right on the same. The thing that I like is if you guys watch, I think it was the latest debate. I assume it was the latest. I don't know if they've done one since. Go watch Andrew Wilson and how he debates Dave Smith. Dave Smith, again, I'm sure he totally thinks he won and that Andrew Wilson was doing a really, really bad job and he was asking these crazy questions. But really what I'm talking about, and this is kind of something that I do a lot as well, you trap them into a certain corner and you got them when none of them are ever going to answer by saying, okay, especially someone like Dave Smith, the smug guy. He's not going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, you got me. He's not going to do that. But what he will do is he'll just obfuscate. He will shift the subject. He'll just be like, you think this is a good point, and not answer. And that's what Andrew Wilson actually does really well. He does ask these questions that might seem a little left field, but what it does is the questions are meant to expose you either as a hypocrite or expose that you're wrong about your previous statement. He does that very well. Again, and I told Andrew to him, like, while he was up here, I don't agree with everything he says, and that's totally fine. I'm pretty sure we're all individuals, so I'm probably not going to agree with 100% of anyone says. But I do respect the way he does his debates. Anyways, like you said, enough glazing. Let's let up these last two guests. If we don't get anyone after that, I'll go on Omi TV or Umingle. We'll see if we can find some people. David, what's up?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What do you think about the video of Mamdani eating with the terrorist from the New York pipe bomb incident?
Yeah, I can answer that. But first, let me actually catch up with the super chats because I kind of missed a couple. I was talking with Andrew. So did I get this one? Yeah, I got that one. Okay. Thank you for the super chat. Song of the Fierce. Sorry for the delay. Would you ever share what brought you to the Noahide path? Thank you for what you do and for your service to the U.S. P.S. How do Christians understand Deuteronomy 4:2? Assuming you were probably asking when that other guy was up here, so maybe someone has answered you or can answer you about Deuteronomy 4:2. But to answer about Noahide, I'll make it really quick. Maybe I'll go into more detail later. But it actually was, I was a cradle Catholic. I started questioning not necessarily Christianity, but the Catholic Church pretty early on. Things that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. When I say early on, I'm talking about like preteen, even maybe slightly into early teenage years. Long story short, when I started questioning that stuff, I couldn't really get any good answers. Not putting that on all Catholics, just maybe the ones at the time. So I kind of just called myself Christian. And then I had a period in my college where I was like this edgy atheist. I'm like, oh, I'm so smart because I'm an atheist, whatever. I was one of those guys for a couple years. And then when I joined the Navy, there was a lot of things that found me back to faith in God. I didn't know what that meant. Didn't really think much more than that, but I saw things that helped me, and I attribute that to God. Anyways, the Noahide thing came much later when I actually started reading other versions of the Bible.
You're technically still a Christian when you and I met.
That's
That's
true.
how you describe yourself.
And so yeah, I described myself as that just because you guys have to understand. I grew up in America, and I didn't grow up like in New York, where I knew obviously who Jews were, but I didn't grow up around Jews. I didn't grow up around Muslims, so I just kind of just was like, yeah, I guess I'm Christian. It's the default position, right? Anyways, long story short, though, with the no hide thing, I started reading other Christian Bibles, different versions. I started to read a little bit of the Quran, but I didn't actually read the Quran in full until later. And then I read it twice, and I started reading the Torah. My best friend, his name's Hebrew Hammer, he actually comes up a lot. He actually, when I was on my third deployment, fourth, I don't know, whatever, one of my deployments, he's like, I know you get bored down on the submarine. You don't really have much. You're on submarines. Here you go. I'm going to give you a Torah. I'm like, I've already read the Torah. I've read the Old Testament. He's like, yeah, but this is the Stone Edition and it has some commentary. Maybe you'll find it interesting. Read the whole thing. I read the commentary. That commentary started to answer a lot of questions that I couldn't get answered at the beginning of my story. Started looking into that. It's not looking into converting to Judaism. I've never even started that process. Will I one day? Maybe. I don't know. It's just whatever God wants for me. It's not really the point of the question, though. Point is that I started looking more into stuff like this, and that's when I found more in the idea of just, I believe in God. I'm not particularly a religious person. I'm not particularly into like organized religion. I'm not against it. I'm just saying where I'm at right now, that's how I am. Hope that answers your question. And then last super chat, please debate on that channel, Shmuel Techman. Thank you. I will. Yeah, I'd love to debate on that. So W. Andrew Wilson for that. Okay, David, you said, what do I think about him having food with the guy that threw the IED?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to be real with you. I didn't even know he had food with him, but it doesn't surprise me at all.
Like, I do not know if it's confirmed, but I've seen the video. I do not know if it's confirmed though. Like, if he did have, what do you think about it? Like, what should it be a high-scale investigation on Mamdani or something like that? Or
Seems like every time we call for that, which of course I'd love for that. I cannot stand Mamdani. I think he's awful. Seems like he always finds a way to snake his way out of it.